The mining ship Horizon drifted through the asteroid belt like a metal whale searching for food. Captain Lisa Morgan checked her instruments for the 100th time that day. Everything looked normal, but something felt wrong. She had learned to trust her gut after 15 years in space. Her crew was small but good at their jobs. Kelly worked the drills while Maria handled navigation, and Sam kept the engines running. They had been out here for 3 months looking for rare minerals to bring back to Earth. The pay was good, but the loneliness of space wore on them all. Lisa was about to call for a break when Maria shouted from her station, "Captain, you need to see this on." The screen was something that should not exist. A ship made of crystal, and light floated near a large asteroid. It looked like someone had taken a rainbow and shaped it into a vessel. The ship pulsed with colors that hurt to look at directly. "That is not human," Maria said, stating the obvious. Lisa moved closer to the screen. "No kidding," she muttered. "Get us closer, but keep weapons ready." As they approached the crystal ship, Lisa saw that it was damaged. Large cracks ran through its surface and parts of it flickered like a dying light bulb. There was no response to their communication attempts. The ship just floated there broken and silent. Kelly came up from the drill room. "What did you find?" she asked. Then she saw the screen and stopped walking. Holy Mother of Stars, Lisa made a decision. "We are going over there, suit." Sam protested from the engine room. "Captain, that could be dangerous. We do not know what that thing is." "Exactly," Lisa replied. "That is why we need to check it out. What if there are survivors?" 20 minutes later, Lisa and Kelly floated across the gap. Between ships, the crystal vessel was even more beautiful up close. It seemed to sing, though there was no sound in space. They found an opening that looked like a door and went inside. The interior was like being inside a diamond. Everything reflected light in impossible ways. The walls showed images that shifted and changed like dreams. But what caught their attention was the figure lying on what looked like a control panel. She was clearly not human. Her skin was silver like liquid mercury, and her hair was white as fresh snow. She wore something that looked like armor made of scales that shifted between blue and green. She was tall, maybe 6.5 feet, and perfectly proportioned, despite her alien features. Her face was angular but beautiful, with high cheekbones and lips that were slightly too full to be human. "She is breathing," Kelly said, checking her scanner. "Or at least I think she is. Her biology is nothing like ours." Lisa knelt beside the alien woman and gently touched her shoulder. The moment she made contact, the alien's eyes snapped open. They were violet and seemed to contain actual stars within them. The alien sat up quickly and spoke in a language that sounded like singing. Then she paused, touched her throat, and spoke again. This time in accented but clear English. "Humans," she said with surprise. "You are humans from Earth?" Lisa nodded slowly, keeping her hands visible and non-threatening. "Yes. I am Captain Lisa Morgan. This is Kelly. We found your ship damaged. Are you hurt?" The alien woman stood gracefully despite having just woken up. "I am Princess Lyra of the Andromedan Royal Fleet," she said with dignity that seemed natural to her. "I am the last of my crew. The Devourers attacked us." Kelly looked at Lisa with worry. "Devourers?" Lyra nodded sadly. "They consume entire star systems. They have been moving toward this galaxy for cycles. We came to warn you, but we were ambushed." She looked around her broken ship. "My people are gone. I failed." Lisa helped Lyra stand. "Properly, you are alive," she said. "That means you have not failed yet. Come to our ship. We can help you." Lyra studied Lisa with those impossible violet eyes. "Why would you help me? You do not know me. Your species has not even achieved faster than light travel yet." "Because it is the right thing to do," Lisa said simply. "You need help, and we can give it. That is enough reason for us." Something in Lyra's expression softened. "Humans," she said quietly. "Your species is known in the galaxy, though you do not know yet. The others say you are chaotic and emotional, but also capable of great kindness." Kelly laughed. "Well, they got that right." Come on, princess, let's get you somewhere with actual life support. As they moved Lyra to their ship, she told them more about the Devourers. They were not a species but a force of destruction that appeared from dark space between galaxies. They consumed energy from stars and left nothing but darkness behind. They had already destroyed 12 civilizations in Andromeda. Bad news is they are coming here, Lyra said as Sam helped her into their medical bay. The good news is I know how to stop them. The problem is I cannot do it alone. Lisa crossed her arms. What do you need? Lyra looked at each human in turn, studying them. I need something only your species has. You call it determination, but it is more than that. Humans have a unique ability to face impossible odds and refuse to give up. Every species in the galaxy knows this about you, even if you do not know about. Then Maria brought Lyra some water, which the alien princess accepted gratefully. So you are saying we can help save the galaxy? Kelly asked. That is a big job for a mining crew. Lyra managed what might have been a smile, though her features made it hard to tell. The Devourers have never faced humans before. They calculate odds and probabilities. They assume all beings will act logically, but humans... She paused. You do not always act logically. You do things because they are right, not because they make sense. Lisa felt something stir in her chest. It was pride mixed with fear, mixed with determination. So what is the plan? First, Lyra said, we need to get to Earth. I must speak with your leaders. Then we need to gather the few remaining free species. And finally, she stood showing her full height and presence. We need to teach the galaxy what humans have always known. Kelly leaned forward. Which is what exactly? That sometimes, Lyra said, her violet eyes blazing with hope. You win, not by being stronger, but by refusing to lose. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. During that time, Lyra became part of the crew. She helped Maria improve their navigation systems with knowledge that was centuries ahead of human technology. She showed Sam how to make the engines run on half the fuel they normally used. And she spent hours talking with Lisa about the galaxy and humanity's place in it. Earth does not know aliens exist? Lisa said one evening as they shared dinner in the small mess hall. This is going to cause panic. Lyra shook her head. Humans are more adaptable than you think. Your fiction has been preparing you for this moment for generations. You dream of the stars before you can reach them. That is rare. Kelly floated in with coffee, a luxury they saved for special occasions. So princess, tell us about your home. Lyra's expression grew sad, but she spoke anyway. Andromeda was beautiful, she began. We had cities that floated in the clouds of gas giants. We built stations inside stars themselves. My people could manipulate energy like your people manipulate matter. We thought we were advanced, we thought we were safe. Sam asked the question they all wondered. But the Devourers beat you. They do not fight. Lyra explained. They simply consume. They appear from nowhere and drain everything. Stars, planets, even the energy between atoms, they leave nothing but cold, dark space. We tried to fight them, but how do you fight something that eats the very weapons you use against it? Lisa frowned. There must be a way, or you would not be here. Lyra nodded and pulled out a small crystal from her armor. It glowed with soft blue light. This is the key, she said. My father discovered it before he died. The Devourers are not invincible. They have one weakness. They cannot consume certain types of energy, specifically the kind generated by conscious determination. Kelly laughed. You are joking. The power of positive thinking beats space monsters. Not positive thinking, Lyra corrected. The energy created when a conscious being refuses to surrender even when logic says they should. My people could never generate enough of it. We are too logical, too accepting of fate. But humans, your entire history is full of standing when you should fall fighting, when you should run, hoping, when you should despair. Maria set down her food. So you need us to what exactly generate this energy? Lyra stood and walked to the window looking at the stars. We need to create a field of determination energy large enough to push the Devourers back to dark space. It will take every human on Earth thinking and feeling the same thing at the same time. That is impossible. Sam said, humans never agree on anything. Lyra turned back to them with something like hope in her alien features. That is what makes you perfect. You argue and fight and disagree, but when faced with extinction, you unite. You have done it before in your world wars, in your disasters, in your plagues. When the moment comes, humans become one species, with one goal: survival. They reached Earth's orbit on a Tuesday. Lisa had sent messages ahead, but she doubted anyone believed them until they saw Lyra's crystal ship being towed behind the horizon. The space station controller's voice cracked when he gave them landing coordinates. The military met them at the landing pad. Soldiers surrounded the ship with weapons drawn. But when Lyra walked out tall and regal, and clearly not hostile, the guns slowly lowered. She raised her hands in the universal gesture of peace. I am Princess Lyra of Andromeda, she announced, her voice carrying across the landing field. I come with a warning and a request. Earth is in danger, but Earth can also be the galaxy's salvation. The next days were chaos. World leaders gathered in emergency sessions. Scientists examined Lyra's technology and confirmed it was real. The media went crazy with the news that aliens existed and one was here asking for help. But something amazing happened. Instead of panic, there was curiosity. Instead of fear, there was excitement. Humans had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they knew they were not, and their response was not to hide, but to step forward. Crowds gathered wherever Lyra went. They brought her flowers and gifts. Children drew pictures of her, and she kept everyone. An old woman in Japan taught her to make origami cranes. A teenager in Brazil showed her how to skateboard. A farmer in Kansas invited her to see his wheat fields, and she cried at their beauty. You do not understand, Lyra told Lisa as they watched the sunset from the roof of the United Nations building. Your species is only 200,000 years old. You have only been civilized for 10,000. You have only left your planet in the last century, but you have more life in you than species that have existed for millions of years. Lisa stood beside the alien princess who had become her friend. Why do you think that is? Because Lyra said, you know you can die. You know you are fragile. You know the universe is vast and dangerous, and you explore it anyway. That is not logical. It is not safe. It is human. The world governments agreed to help. It took them only 3 days to decide. When faced with the extinction of all life in the galaxy, the choice was simple. They would fight. Scientists worked with Lyra to build devices that could channel and amplify human determination. They looked like simple headbands, but they were based on Andromedan technology that could read and project conscious energy. The plan was simple, but impossible. When the devourers arrived, every human on Earth would need to put on a headband and think the same thought, feel the same feeling at the exact same moment. They would need to generate a wave of pure refusal to surrender. Have never done anything like this before, the president said in a global broadcast. But then we have never needed to. We are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every living thing in the galaxy. And I believe we can win. Because we are human. Because we are too stubborn to lose. Training began immediately. People gathered in groups to practice synchronizing their thoughts. It was hard at first. Humans were so different from each other. But slowly they learned to find common ground. Parents thought of protecting their children. Children thought of growing up to see tomorrow. Soldiers thought of defending the innocent. Doctors thought of healing the sick. Teachers thought of lessons yet to teach. Artists thought of beauty yet to create. All different thoughts, but all with the same core. We will not give up. We will not surrender. We will survive. Lyra watched it all with wonder. Your species is impossible, she told Lisa one night as they prepared. You should not be able to do this. But you are. Hey, sweetie, Lisa said with a smile, trying to lighten the mood. You have not seen anything yet. Wait until the devourers meet. Human stubbornness. Lyra blushed, her silver skin shifting to a warm bronze. Yes, darling, she replied. Having learned human Expressions I am beginning to believe that the devourers have no idea what they are about to face. The warning came 2 weeks later. Lyra's sensors detected the devourers approaching. They would arrive in 3 days. The entire planet held its breath. Was it the moment when humanity would either prove they belonged among the stars or become another dead world in an empty galaxy? But as Lisa looked around at her fellow humans preparing for the impossible, she felt no fear. They were ready. The sky turned black at noon on the day the devourers arrived. It was not clouds or an eclipse. The sun simply grew dimmer as something vast and hungry began to feed on its light. People stood in the streets looking up at the darkening sky, knowing this was the moment everything changed. Lisa stood in the global command center they had set up in Geneva. Screens showed every major city on Earth: Beijing, London, New York, Mumbai, Lagos, Sydney. Every human settlement was connected, waiting for the signal. Lyra stood beside her, the crystal device in her hands glowing brighter as the devourers approached. "They are here," Lyra said softly. Her violet eyes reflecting the data streams. On the screens, impossible shapes appeared around Earth. They were not ships or creatures, but something between shadows that moved with purpose. They flowed like oil through space, leaving darkness wherever they touched. Stars visible from Earth began to flicker and die. The president spoke on every channel, every radio, every device on Earth. "This is it," she said simply. "Everyone put on your headbands. Think of tomorrow. Think of survival. Think of the person next to you and refuse to let them die. Today, we show the universe what humans are made of." 8 billion people moved as one. They put on the simple-looking headbands that Lyra and Earth scientists had built. Children in schools helped each other. Nurses in hospitals placed them on patients. Prisoners and guards stood side by side. Enemies became allies in the face of extinction. Lisa felt the headband activate. It was warm against her skin, and suddenly she could feel something she had never felt before: the thoughts and feelings of every human on Earth. It should have been overwhelming, but instead, it was like hearing a choir where every voice was different but harmonious. The devourers moved closer. They began to drain Earth's atmosphere. The air grew thin and cold. Plants started to wither. Birds fell from the sky. The oceans began to freeze. But humans stood firm. Now Lyra shouted, and her voice was somehow heard by everyone. Lisa thought of her mother, who had died when she was 12 but had taught her to never give up. She thought of her first day in space and how small Earth looked, but how precious she thought of Kelly and Maria and Sam, who had become her family among the stars. She thought of Lyra, who had traveled across galaxies to save strangers. Around the world, 8 billion humans thought their own thoughts but felt the same feeling. "No, not today. Not ever. We refuse." The energy that poured from humanity was visible from space. It looked like golden fire spreading from every human being. It joined together above the atmosphere, forming a barrier of pure determination. The devourers hit it, and for the first time in their existence they stopped. "Something is happening," Maria shouted from her station. "The devourers are pulling back on." The screens, the shadows that had been consuming everything, paused. They writhed and twisted as if in pain. The golden energy from Earth pushed against them, and they could not consume it. It was antithetical to their very nature. They fed on matter and energy, but this was neither. It was consciousness itself refusing to end. But the devourers did not retreat yet. They pressed harder, and the drain on Earth increased. More people began to collapse as the effort became too much. Children cried, elderly fell, hospitals reported casualties. But for everyone who fell, others stood stronger. Construction worker in Detroit held his pregnant wife as she struggled to stay conscious and thought of their unborn child seeing the sun. A teacher in Mumbai gathered her students close and told them to think of their dreams. A farmer in Nigeria looked at his dying crops and imagined them growing again. A grandmother in Russia held her grandchildren and refused to let this be their end. The human energy grew stronger. It was not just determination now. It was love, and hope, and fury, and joy, all mixed together. It was everything that made humans human: their chaos, their passion, their absolute refusal to go quietly into the night. Lyra connected her crystal device to the global network. Now she said, "I will amplify what you generate, but the power must come from you." She began to glow the same silver as her skin. The crystal in her hands blazed with light that was every color and no color. The human energy flowed through her and she shaped it, focused it, and sent it back out 1,000 times stronger. The golden barrier became a wave. It pushed outward from Earth, spreading through the solar system. The devourers tried to consume it but could not. It was like trying to eat the concept of courage itself. They pulled back further in. The command center, Lisa watched as something unprecedented happened. The devourers began to retreat. Not slowly, not tactically, but in what could only be described as fear. They flowed backward away from Earth, away from the sun, away from the golden wave that pursued them around the world. Humans did not stop. They pushed harder. A child in Sweden thought of birthday parties yet to come. A soldier in India thought of peace after war. A scientist in Antarctica thought of discoveries yet to make. A musician in Cuba thought of songs yet to write. Every human added their voice to the chorus, and the chorus became a roar that crossed space itself. Other ships began to appear on the sensors. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They were refugees from the galaxies the devourers had consumed. They had been hiding in dark spaces between stars, but they saw Earth's light and came to witness the impossible. The devourers fled faster. They abandoned the energy they had stolen from Earth's sun, and it blazed back to full brightness. They released the atmospheres of the planets they had begun to drain. Everything they had taken in this solar system they gave back as they ran from the golden wave of human determination. But humanity was not done. Lyra fell to her knees, the effort of channeling so much energy. Taking its toll, Lisa caught her and held her up together. They watched as the human energy did something even Lyra had not expected. It began to heal the damage the devourers had caused. In nearby systems, dead stars flickered back to life. Empty worlds regained their atmospheres. The darkness the devourers had spread began to retreat. How, Kelly asked, her voice full of wonder. "How are we doing?" "This." Lyra smiled weakly. "Because you do not just refuse to die. You refuse to let anything die. You are not just saving yourselves, you are saving everyone. That is what makes humans special. You fight for strangers as hard as you fight for family." The devourers reached the edge of the galaxy and kept going. They fled into the dark space between galaxies where they had come from. But now there was a barrier they could not cross. The golden energy had formed a permanent shield around the Milky Way, and it was spreading to protect Andromeda, and beyond. Any place where conscious beings refused to surrender would be safe from the devourers forever. As the immediate danger passed, people around the world began to remove their headbands. But something had changed. They had felt what it was like to be truly united, to be one species with one goal. And that feeling did not completely fade. In the command center, alarms that had been screaming fell silent. Systems that had been failing came back online. The Earth was safe. The solar system was safe. The galaxy was safe. Lyra stood with Lisa's help and looked at the screens showing celebrating humans around the world. "You did it," she said with wonder. "Your species did what mine could not, what none could do. You beat them." Lisa grinned and pulled the alien princess into a hug. "We did it together," she said. "All of us." The other alien ships were sending messages now. Gratitude in 1,000 languages, thanks from species humanity had never known existed. They called Earth the light of the galaxy, the shield of life, the hope of tomorrow. But in the command center, Lisa just held her friend and watched the sun shine bright again. Outside, tomorrow there would be first contact with 100 species. Tomorrow there would be new alliances and new adventures. Tomorrow, humanity would take its place among the stars. But today they had proved that humans were exactly as special as they had always hoped they were. 3 months after the devourers fled, Earth had become the most important planet in the galaxy. Ships from 100 different species orbited peacefully, waiting their turn to meet the humans who had saved them all. The United Nations building had been expanded with alien technology to accommodate visitors of all sizes and shapes. Lisa had been appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the galactic community, mostly because she had found Lyra and partly because she could handle the strange. Without panicking, she stood in the new reception hall watching a 12-foot-tall crystal, being shake hands very carefully with the President of France. "This is insane," Kelly said, joining her. Kelly now wore the uniform of Earth's first interstellar defense force. 3 months ago, we were mining asteroids. Now we are hosting dinner parties for aliens, Lisa laughed. "Wait until you see the nebula dancers. They communicate through color changes. It is like watching a living rainbow." Lyra approached, them moving through the crowd with the grace she always displayed. She had recovered fully from channeling humanity's energy, but something had changed about her. She seemed more alive, more present, as if being near humans had awakened something in her. "The Galactic Council wants to meet with you," she told Lisa. "They have a proposal." The council consisted of representatives from the 12 oldest spacefaring species. They had existed for millions of years and had never agreed on anything until now. They sat in a circle in the newly built council chamber, beings of such different forms that it was hard to believe they could communicate at all. The eldest spoke through a translation device, its voice like grinding stone. "Humans," it began, "you are young. Your species has barely left its cradle, yet you have done what we could not. You have united the galaxy in hope rather than fear." Lisa stood in the center of the circle, feeling very small, but not afraid. "We just did what humans do," she said. "We refuse to give up." Another council member that looked like living fire flickered as it spoke. "You must understand," it said, "the Devourers were only the first threat. There are things in the dark spaces between galaxies that make them seem gentle. The universe is vast and full of dangers, we know," Lisa replied. "But that is why we explore it anyway." The council members exchanged looks, or what passed for looks among such different beings. Then the eldest spoke again. "We wish to offer Earth a place. On this council you would be the youngest member by millions of years, but you have earned it." Before Lisa could respond, Lyra stepped forward. "May I speak?" she asked. The council acknowledged her, and she continued. "I have lived among humans for months. Now I have seen what they can do. But more importantly, I have seen who they are. They do not want to rule. They do not want to control. They want to explore, to learn, to make friends. They will take your offer, but they will change it." "How?" "So the fire," being asked. Lisa understood what Lyra meant and spoke up. "We will join your council, but not to sit above others," she said. "We want every species to have a voice, not just the oldest or the strongest. If we are going to face the dangers of the universe, we face them together. All of us." The council chamber fell silent. It was a radical proposal. In the millions of years of galactic civilization, it had always been the powerful who made decisions for the weak. But humans were suggesting something different. The youngest species would reshape how the galaxy governed itself. "We will consider this," the eldest said, which in diplomatic terms meant they were shocked, but interested. After the meeting, Lyra and Lisa walked through the gardens that had been built. On the roof of the expanded UN building, plants from 50 different worlds grew side by side, creating combinations of color and scent that no human had imagined before. "You knew they would offer us a council seat," Lisa said. Lyra nodded. "I also knew you would change their offer. That is what humans do. You see hierarchy and try to flatten it. You see isolation and build bridges. You see differences and find common ground." They stopped by a fountain that flowed upward thanks to anti-gravity technology, a gift from the Centauri Collective. The water sparkled with bioluminescent organisms from Lyra's home galaxy. "I have a confession," Lyra said quietly. "When I first came here, I was not just running from the Devourers. I was running from my own death. My people are gone. I am the last Andromedan. I came here to die after warning you." Lisa took her hand. "What changed?" "You did," Lyra said. "All of you humans have this ability to make others want to live, to fight, to hope. I had accepted my fate, but you refused to let me." You treated me not as the last of a dead species, but as the first of something new, hey, sweetie. Lisa said, squeezing her hand gently. You are family now. All the aliens who have come here, our Earth is not just humanity's home anymore. It belongs. To anyone who needs it, Lyra turned to face her, and Lisa saw tears in those violet eyes. Actual tears, though her species expressed emotion differently. Yes, darling, Lyra replied. I understand that now. Home is not where you are from. It is where you are accepted. Sam burst through the garden door. Captain, he shouted, using Lisa's old title. You need to see this. They rushed to the communication center where screens showed deep space sensors. The image that appeared made everyone stop breathing. Ships were coming through a hole in space itself, not dozens or hundreds but millions. They were refugees from other galaxies that the Devourers had consumed. They had heard about Earth, about the species that had driven back the darkness. They were coming to the Milky Way seeking shelter. There are too many, Maria said from her station. Where will they all go? Lisa looked at the screens showing the massive fleet of refugee ships, then at Lyra, then at her human crew. She thought about what Earth had become. In just 3 months, a place where impossible things happened, a place where enemies became friends, a place where the last became the first. We will find room, she said. We will build new colonies on empty worlds. We will share our solar system, be one. We'll make space because that is what we do. We make the impossible possible. The president appeared on the main screen. She had been in emergency session with world leaders. How many are coming? She asked. Our sensors count at least 50 billion individuals, from over 3,000 species, Kelly reported. They will be here in 6 months. The president was quiet for a moment, then smiled. It seems Earth is about to become very crowded. We had better start building. And they did. Humans did what they did best. They adapted. They innovated. They turned a crisis into an opportunity. Mars, which had been slowly terraforming for decades, was accelerated with alien technology. The moon became a city. Jupiter's moons became colonies. The asteroid belt became living spaces, but more than that, humans taught the galaxy something new. They taught them that diversity was strength, that chaos could be beautiful, that hope was not foolish but necessary. They taught them to laugh in the face of danger, to sing while working, to dance for no reason at all. The refugee fleet arrived to find not just shelter but welcome. Humans had prepared homes for beings they had never met. They had learned languages that their mouths could not speak. They had created art that their eyes could not see but that other species could appreciate. And at the center of it all, Lisa and Lyra worked to coordinate the greatest migration in galactic history. They made an odd pair, the human woman and the alien princess, but they had become something more than friends. They were the bridge between what was and what could be. One night, as they watched the lights of 1,000 different species ships creating new constellations in Earths, Sky, Kelly asked, Do you think the Devourers will come back? Lyra shook her head. They cannot. The barrier humanity created is permanent and growing. As more species learn to generate determination energy, it spreads. The dark things between galaxies are being pushed further and further back, so we won. Sam said. No. Lisa corrected. We survived and we helped others survive too, but the universe is vast and full of wonders and dangers. We have not won. We have just started. She was right. The universe had noticed humanity, and humanity had noticed the universum. Real adventure was just beginning. 1 year had passed since the Devourers fled and Earth was unrecognizable. The planet had become the capital of the new galactic alliance, not because humans had demanded it, but because every species had voted for it. Earth was where miracles happened. They said Earth was where hope lived. Lisa stood on the bridge of the Harmony, the first ship built with combined human and alien technology. It was beautiful and impossible, with walls that could become transparent and engines that bent space itself. She was its captain, and her crew was half human, half other species. Ready for the jump? Kelly asked from her station. She had learned to operate technology that human scientists were still trying to understand. Lisa nodded but looked at Lyra, who stood beside her as always. The alien princess had become Earth's first non-human citizen and had chosen to join this mission. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before. They were going to jump to the dark space between galaxies, to see if the barrier held, to see if the devourers were truly gone, and to rescue any survivors who might be trapped there. Initiating jump. Sam announced. Space twisted, and suddenly, they were nowhere. The void between galaxies was emptier than anything. Humans had imagined no stars, no planets, no light except what they brought with them. It should have been terrifying, but Lisa felt only determination. The barrier is here, Lyra said with wonder. Look, and there it was, a wall of golden energy stretching to infinity in every direction. It pulsed with life, with thought, with the combined will of every conscious being who refused to surrender. It was the most beautiful thing Lisa had ever seen. Movement on sensors. Maria called out. Something is coming. Through the barrier. They watched as a small ship emerged from the golden wall. It was damaged, almost destroyed, but it was moving. It sent out a weak distress signal in a language none of them recognized. Survivors, Lisa said. Bring them in. The ship held 3 beings that looked like living shadows with eyes of silver. They were from a galaxy so far away that light from it had not reached the Milky Way yet. They had been running from the devourers for longer than Earth had existed when they saw humans. They did something their species had never done before. They cried, "You are the ones," they said through the translator. "You are the ones who built the wall, who saved us all. We thought it was a legend, but it is real. You are real." Lisa helped them to the medical bay where Dr. Chen, a human, and healer Vorix, a crystalline being, worked together to treat them. As they recovered, they told their story. They were scouts from the Eternal Fleet, a group of species that had been fighting the devourers. For millions of years they had never won, only survived by running. But when the barrier appeared, they knew something had changed. They came to find its source. There are more of us. The shadow beings said, billions who have been running, who have been hiding. They need to know it is safe now. Lisa made a decision that would change everything. We will find them. She said, we will bring them home. And so began the great rescue. For the next 6 months, the Harmony jumped from one dark space to another, finding pockets of survivors. Some were single ships that had been drifting for centuries. Others were entire fleets that had given up hope. They all had the same reaction when they learned about humanity. Impossible, they would say. A species that, young, that primitive, could not have done this. But then they would meet humans and understand humans did not win because they were advanced. They won because they believed they could. They won because they refused to lose. They won because they fought for strangers as hard as they fought for themselves. With each rescue, the barrier grew stronger. Every species they saved added their own determination to it. The golden wall became rainbow-colored as different forms of consciousness joined the shield on. One rescue, they found something unexpected. A message probe from the devourers. It was the first time the devourers had ever communicated. The message was simple. Why Lisa, Lyra, and the council gathered to discuss it. The devourers did not understand. They were beings of pure hunger and could not comprehend why anyone would risk themselves for others. They could not understand sacrifice or love or hope. Should we respond? The council asked. Lisa thought for a long time. Then she said yes. Tell them. They are welcome to return when they learn to build instead of destroy. When they learn to give instead of take. Tell them the barrier is not a wall to keep them out, but a challenge to become better. Some council members objected. It was too dangerous, too risky. But Lyra supported Lisa. That is what humans do, she said. They see enemies and try to make them friends. They see monsters and look for the being inside. They never stop believing that anyone can change. The message was sent. Meanwhile, on Earth, the integration of species continued. Every day brought new challenges and new wonders. Human children went to school with young beings from 100 worlds. Human artists collaborated with aliens who saw colors humans could not imagine. Human scientists worked with minds that thought in dimensions humans could not perceive. But there were also problems. Some humans feared the changes. Some aliens did not understand human chaos. Some species had conflicts that went back millions of years. It was messy, and complicated and sometimes dangerous. But it was also amazing. Kelly started a program where human families hosted alien refugees. She called it the Cosmic Family Project. Within a year, every major city on Earth had alien residents who were not just visitors but neighbors. Sam opened the first interspecies restaurant where human comfort food was served alongside cuisine from across the galaxy. The most popular dish was pizza topped with ingredients from 12 different worlds. Maria founded a school where navigation was taught using the combined knowledge of every spacefaring species. Humans learned to think in 4 dimensions, while insectoid beings learned human intuition. And through it all, Lisa and Lyra worked to hold it together. They traveled constantly from world to world, from species to species, solving problems and building bridges. One day on a planet where the grass was purple and the sky was green, they stood watching a human child play with an alien child who looked like a small dragon. The children did not care that they were different, they just wanted to play. "This is the future," Lyra said. "This is what we are building." Lisa smiled and took her hand. "Hey, sweetie," she said, using the phrase that had become their tradition. "We did good." Lyra laughed, a sound like silver bells. "Yes, darling," she replied, "we did. But their greatest challenge was yet to come." The message came through every communication device in the galaxy simultaneously. It was from the Devourers. "We have considered your message. We wish to understand. We will send one." The galaxy held its breath. The Devourers were coming back, not as an invasion but as a single representative. They wanted to learn what had defeated them. The meeting was held on Earth, in the garden where Lisa and Lyra had walked so many times. The Devourer representative was smaller than expected, a shadow the size of a human with eyes that held the depth of empty space. It spoke without sound directly into their minds. "You do not understand," it said. "You had victory. You could have destroyed us, but you offered redemption." Why, Lisa stepped forward. "Because that is what makes us different from you," she said. "We do not just survive. We live. We do not just take. We share. We do not just exist. We hope." The Devourer was silent for a long time. Then it asked, "Can we learn this?" The galaxy waited for the answer. Lyra spoke. "Anyone can learn," she said. "Anyone can change. That is what the humans taught us. That is what they taught the galaxy. That there is always hope even for the darkest among us." The Devourer considered this. "We will try it," said. "We will learn to build instead of destroy. It will take time." Lisa smiled. "Time we have," she said. "The barrier will remain, but you are welcome to exist beside it. When you are ready, when you have learned, you can join us." The Devourer departed, but it left something behind. A small seed of light. The first thing a Devourer had ever created rather than consumed. They planted it in the garden where it grew into a tree that was neither matter nor energy but something new. Something that had never existed before in the universe. A symbol that anything could change. Years passed. Earth became the heart of a galaxy united not by force, but by hope. Humans took their place among the stars not as conquerors, but as the species that reminded everyone else why life was worth living. And in a garden on Earth where impossible things grew, an alien princess and a human woman continued to prove that love could cross any distance and hope could defeat any darkness. The universe was vast and full of wonders and dangers, but humanity had given it something new. They had given it the belief that tomorrow could be better than today, and that was the most human thing of all.